2023. I'll call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call, please.
Councilmember Abdelgawad.
Here.
Councilmember Baker.
Present.
Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Councilmember Ingert.
Present.
Councilmember Forster.
Present.
Councilmember Holman.
Present.
Councilmember Townsend.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow.
Present. We have a quorum. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have no presentations or personal appearances scheduled this evening, so I'll turn it over to the staff report. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Gress to make a staff report for Development Services.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and Council, within your packet was a report for the permitting activity for the month of September. A couple development items I wanted to highlight for the Council. The first one being, I reported here a few weeks ago, I think, the building at 214 West Walnut, which is the future, or I guess in this case, current location of the Quilted Cow. In the month of September, they finished all of their tenant finish improvements, so keep your eyes open for a ribbon cutting event for that business, but we're excited to see them finished up with their construction on their building. We also received building plans for the redevelopment of the former Office Max there off of Dean. The future use of that is going to be a Sano orthopedic office, and so they're in the process of getting their building plans reviewed. Their plan is to split that into different multiple professional office suites for the future development of that Sano's facility. We also received construction plans. They are currently under review for the HTO, which is has been approved to be located right next to the Amoco station here at Sunset and 58. It's about a 2,000 square foot retail location. They serve flavored teas. Pretty interesting concept. The Planning and Zoning Commission approved that project here last month, and so their building plans are under review. And I know they hope to start some construction here before the end of this year. And then last but not least, I wanted to highlight, we did have a ribbon cutting for Wheelhouse Baseball, which is the new facility located at 213 North Madison. It was the former Odell's discount store, which unfortunately closed. Wheelhouse was a former business within the city. They left for a few years and then came back and just opened up this brand new facility for them here, so we were excited to welcome them to the community. That will conclude my staff report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gress. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Gress? Okay, turn him back. Oh, yes, Mr. Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In your notes, I saw that there potentially is a tenant for the second warehouse. Is that something you can expand on? Or?
Yes, I can. So we did receive the plans last week for that as well. Building number 2, which is the middle building, does have a tenant for about a quarter of that building. I forget the exact square footage, but it's a company named Harmar. They construct medical mobility equipment. They actually have a facility just outside of Lake Winnebago by the former fire station, but they're leaving that facility to grow into this new building here in Raymore.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Mr. Gress. Just to remind the council, we do have a work session scheduled for next Monday night at 6 p.m. 2 topics will be on some development services items as far as general overview is concerned. So we know who's going into those second warehouses. And then we will be bringing back, as we do each year, even though you have the first read of the budget tonight, always until the final read of the budget is on for the work session. If any changes were to be made at the work session, we would ask the mayor to reopen the public hearing that will be closed tonight. That concludes staff reports this evening, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Fearborn? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Abdelgawad.
I move that we approve the City Council meeting minutes for September 25th, item A, under the consent agenda.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? 1 abstention? 2 abstentions? Okay. Motion carries 6 yes, 0 no's, and 2 abstentions. We'll now move on to unfinished business. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3842 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3842 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, amending the Unified Development Code.
If there are no further questions on this item, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of it.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Abdel-Gawad?
I move that we approve Bill 3842, the 36th Amendment to the Unified Development Code.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3842. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Can I please have the second reading of Bill 3850 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3850 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the East Brook at Creekmore Fourth Final Plat, a subdivision of land located in the southwest quarter and southeast quarter of Section 4, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you, ma'am. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Abdel-Gawad?
I move that we approve Bill 3850, East Brook at Creekmore Fourth Final Plat.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3850. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. We'll now move on to new business. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3853 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3853 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the fiscal year 2024 budget.
Thank you. Is there a staff report? Well, before the staff report, I'll open a public hearing on this item, and then I'll request a staff report.
Thank you, Your Honor. The city manager transmitted the proposed fiscal year 2024 budget and capital improvement program to the City Council on August 21st, 2023. The council's had the opportunity to discuss that budget and the CIP at each council work session following the presentation. Tonight, Bill 3853 is presented for your consideration for the 2024 city manager's proposed budget. During the work sessions, there were a number of items that were added or proposed by the council to be added to the budget utilizing general fund balance. Item number one was to allocate $50,000 to the general fund for the purchase of new traffic radar signs. Item number two was to allocate $13,400 from the general fund available balance to purchase 2 new flock cameras for the Raymore Police Department. Amendment number three was to add an additional $15,000 from the general fund available fund balance to previously allocated funds for electronic signage in various areas of the city. And amendment number four was to allocate $70,000 from the general fund available fund balance to the park sales tax fund for repair and maintenance of bridges along Memorial Park Trail. The motion to include the city manager's original proposed budget and those 4 amendments is in front of all the council members tonight for your consideration. I would also point out that you have a new copy of actually Bill 3853. In the one that was actually included in your original packet, buildings and grounds and stormwater were reversed on that. So their amounts, the amounts are the same, it was just reversed out. That concludes staff report on this item tonight, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Fearborn on the budget at this time? Hearing none, there is a public hearing that is open at this time. If anyone from the public would like to comment on the FY 2024 city budget, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Seeing no one come forward, I'll close the public hearing at this time, and I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Abdel-Gawad?
I move that we approve Bill 3853, the fiscal year 2024 budget with the following amendments. Amendment 1, to allocate $50,000 from the general fund to the purchase of new traffic radar signs. Amendment 2, to allocate $13,400 from the general fund to purchase 2 new flock cameras for the Raymore Police Department. Amendment 3, to add an additional $15,000 from the general fund's available fund balance to previously allocated funds for electronic signage in various areas of Raymore. And Amendment 4, to allocate $70,000 from the general fund to the park sales tax fund for repair and maintenance of bridges along the Memorial Park Trail.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3853, the fiscal year 2024 budget with 4 amendments as stated. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Holman.
Thank you, Your Honor. I've been thinking about this a little bit. I don't believe that Amendment 4, the allocation of $70,000 to the general fund for repair and maintenance of the bridges is warranted at this time, especially coming on the comments of staff that of the 3 trails that are in need of repair or rehab, the one in the most dire need is actually the Owen Good Parkway trail and not the Memorial. And this is piecemeal. This is to me equivalent of having a car that needs engine or transmission repair and you're putting a new radio in it. So at this time, sir, I would motion for an amendment to the original motion to remove Amendment 4, which is the allocation of $70,000 to the general fund to the Park Sales Tax Fund for repair and maintenance of bridges along the Memorial Park Trail.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made to remove amendment number 4 as stated from the budget. Is there a second? Mr. Barber?
I'll second that motion or amendment.
Thank you, sir. The motion for the amendment to the proposed budget to remove amendment number 4 has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Ms. Forster.
Thank you. I respect his opinion on this matter, but I would respectfully disagree in the sense I understand that there are a whole trails that are in more dire need. However, the bridges are something we can help people whenever they're having to cross it. It almost eliminates the trail in a way. So by doing something to help with this area and make it safer for our constituents, I feel this is important. So I would like to keep it in there. I don't know what that looks like on how to move forward with this, but
Yep, and you just have to vote yes or no on the amendment.
okay,
The second
Okay.
amendment.
on the second.
Anybody else? Anybody else have any comments?
So,
Yes, Ms. Abdelwood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to share that I agree with Tabitha on that. I included Amendment 4 because for several reasons, actually. I believe we're already planning to spend $78,000 on other things that are kind of extras, not things that were originally in the city manager's budget. If we can't afford to spend $70,000 on our trails, which we know people use on a very regular basis, we know that there's something that people in the city value. As being a resident here, and even people outside of the city value and use our trails a lot. I think that we are responsible for trying to keep up those trails the best we can, and allocating $70,000 of the large amount that would really be required is a great step in the right direction. As Tabitha said, you know, that trail at Memorial Park will be basically useless when those bridges fall. Nathan shared with us at the work session that those bridges were built in 1998, so it's very clearly time to update, rebuild, and do some extensive maintenance on those bridges, or they are going to be impassable. We're not going to be able to use them. The trail that needs to be fixed the most, again, was shared in our work session, that it is allocated on the CIP, so coming up to be repaired in the near future. So that's part of why we didn't consider that in this amendment, besides the cost. But the cost is allocated in the near future. As a project for the Parks Department, these bridges were pushed off along with the repairs to Rec Park and Memorial Park trails. So I think the $70,000 for this year to fix those bridges, to, even though the trails are crumbling, cracking, falling apart, we can still use them, but without the bridges we can't. So I think this is an important amendment to the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would tend to agree with Mr. Holman, and I'll add my discussion point. With respect to, we have a Parks Board, and I would have assumed that the Parks Board would have given us a little more information with respect to prioritization of trail repair, particularly given, as it was stated in the work session, and Ms. Abdelgawad highlighted this evening, the age of these particular bridges, and that they have not been repaired or replaced, and determining, one, if they are necessary, or two, if they were to be removed, what impacts would that have on the system for those who use Memorial Park? But I would much rather, given the presentation that we had of the existing parks ask from our work session and this particular Amendment 4 being added in here, that the Parks Board consider what is necessary and add to the next budget or throughout the budget year, come back with, the triaging our park system and trail system to determine which park is necessary and which one should be repaired ahead of another. So I would agree with respect to the particular motion.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. Belgawad.
Just a kind of a quick follow-up, 2 questions. Number one, is it the ask of the Parks Department or Parks Board to bring to us a balanced budget? I believe that's what they're tasked with, is bringing a balanced budget to us. So they don't really have the opportunity to ask for additional things in their budget. That's why they plan things out so far, even though we know they need to be done now. Second thing, if we're going to go along those lines, then we should probably take out these items also for the police department. Those are not items they asked for or included in their budget either.
Anyone else have any comments?
I will add, and I will concur with respect to the comments. These particular bridges haven't been replaced for a reason for 40 years, and I would be curious to know the reason behind that. If over the 40 years of councils and parks boards that this particular area has not come up as a concern, that is a concern as well. So I continue with the Parks Board is established for that purpose, to assess our system and bring to us, in addition to the balanced budget, those capital needs to make sure our trail system meets the requests and the requirements of our citizens.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, so on, Mr. Holman.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I don't disagree that putting some money into the trail system is a bad idea. I would concur with Councilmember Townsend's comment. I think the Parks Board prioritized this, and the statement was made that Owen Good needs the repairs to the system more desperately than the other two. My concern is the piecemeal funding, and I think that the trail rehab of all 3 trails or any individual trail is probably more appropriate for funding in whole as a comprehensive project, possibly under a future no tax bond increase.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? There's no further discussion. The motion on the floor is to remove amendment number 4 from the original motion to adopt the budget. Because this is a budget item, I'm going to ask for a roll call, please.
Councilmember Abdelgawad?
Just clarify, voting no is not in favor of the amendment, correct? No.
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert?
No.
Councilmember Forster?
No.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Townsend?
Yes.
The motion carries 5 yes, 3 noes. Amendment 4 is removed from the budget motion. Now we'll, the motion being considered now is the approved first reading of the budget at 3853 with amendments 1 through 3 in them. And so I would entertain a motion to approve.
You have a motion, Your Honor.
We do have a motion
Yeah,
on
if
that?
there's any further discussion on the underlying motion, then vote.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second to adopt the budget. Any further discussion? Hearing none, could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdelgawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
You're voting on the budget with the 3 amendment, the amended budget? Yeah.
Voted on the amendment. We're now voting on the budget overall.
Yes.
Okay.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Ingert?
Yes.
Councilmember Forster?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Townsend?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. We'll now move on to,
Mr. Mayor?
yes.
Before we move
Mr.
on,
Townsend.
I'm sorry, I have a technical issue. My system here logged out, so if I can get someone to log me back in. Sorry about this, sir. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3844 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3844 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into a lease agreement with Youth Scoreboards LLC for the lease of 4 sections of property within Recreation Park to be used for scoreboards at the baseball, softball complex.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Musteen to make a staff report on this item.
Thanks, sir. Mayor, members of the council, tonight before you is the lease agreement for scoreboards at Recreation Park. If you'll remember, on a work session on September 18th, we presented the program to you in terms of the lease, where the 4 fields, being fields 3, 4, 5, and 6, we are leasing space behind the fields to Youth Scoreboards, that company. And in turn, they will be providing scoreboards for us that have a revenue sharing agreement once operational costs are complete. Most of the program is listed throughout the lease. We provided that to you. The Park Board has approved this back in August. Staff and Park Board both recommend this program. Mr. Greg Walker from Youth Scoreboards is here tonight. He is, I will say, pretty excited to be here and be the first complex in the state of Missouri to take advantage of this program. And so we are excited to do this program over the course of the winter and open our spring season with some scoreboards at our complex. I'm happy to answer any questions, and that concludes staff report.
Thank you, Nathan. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a few just clarifying questions based on what's in our packet. First of all, section 3.2, repairs maintenance. It says that the city is responsible for minor repairs and the costs associated, and YSB will be responsible for other maintenance and repairs. What do we define minor repairs as? Because my thing in the work session was, if a ball hits it, you know, who's going to replace the sign or fix it?
If it's broken beyond our ability to repair, Youth Scoreboards will come in and either replace it or make those repairs. Most of what we're going to do is put up screens and block the balls. That would be balls hitting the stuff, the scoreboards and stuff. Since our fields are used for softball and baseball both, the screens will prevent most of those types of damages for us.
And that screen plan is part of our contract then to have that in there?
It is being negotiated, but yes, it would be included if they deem it necessary. They have to determine whether it's of value to them, because if it does break, then it's on their cost. So they'll look at that. But from what we've been told and the discussions that we've had is usually on the adult fields, those screens get put automatic because home runs are more prominent in adult leagues.
Okay, and the concern was that the baseball season or softball was so short that if a screen were to get broke, you know, how quick could they get a replacement in, or, you know, is there back orders and we may lose the scoreboard for the season, and how would that affect the revenue?
They have additional boards in storage.
Okay. And then a couple more here. So if a scoreboard was replaced, it said an additional 10 years would be added to the lease. So if one were broke and they had to replace it entirely, would that mean that we would have a different schedule of leases based on when they report?
That's my understanding on it. It would be that particular field would go into a sublease.
Okay. And then it said that the city shall not solicit existing or potential purchasers of advertising. In the work session, you said that we would get final say, or at least we'd have say in what would go up on the board. I know they listed some things that it will not be allowed, but would we ultimately, as a city or someone on staff, see what advertisers are coming aboard, or is that something that, as long as they don't put what's in the packet up there, everything else is good?
Yeah, once the advertising goes through their system, we have final say on what would go to make sure it is approved through our own policy.
And then last question, appreciate it. It does say the operational costs, once they're met, then we get the 20%. But some of those costs were warranties, maintenance, sales, administrative, and legal costs. Do we have any idea how much that goes into the contract or the cost of operation?
I do not have those numbers at this time.
Because I'm just kind of thinking, that, you know, paying for legal fees and that could get to where we may not recoup that 20% for several years down the road.
Okay.
Just questioning that for contractual purposes.
I would.
Yeah, Councilmember, that's an accurate assessment. Although I don't anticipate a significant number of legal fees at this particular time, the contract that's been presented to us has been a contract that the entity has previously utilized, so I don't anticipate the legal fees are going to be the hang-up. The question is going to be maintenance and other items that might go into it.
Okay. That's all I got.
That's okay. Yeah, Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Your Honor. Nathan, sorry, I didn't mean to blindside you. This is just for my information, anybody who's watching the information, but there's got to be a value of these 4 signs. Do you have an estimate of what the overall value or the cost would be for these signs?
Per unit or
Or
for the
all 4
that
of them
we're
together?
going?
I mean, just a number. So this is obviously a very good opportunity. Just want to know what the overall value of it was.
Mr. Walker, what would be the per unit of the scoreboards? I'm happy to answer that. Come on up, sir. I'll ask you to state your name, where you're from, and then answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilman. My name is Greg Walker. I'm with Youth Scoreboards, LLC, out of Oklahoma. Specifically to your question, Councilman, the scoreboards may vary as far as what we call our overall cost. Our initial investment is going to be based on whether or not we have to put down a concrete base and standards. For example, in one of our other locations, the standards were there. We simply removed the other boards at our cost and installed ours on the existing structure. So in this case, the best that I could probably give you is somewhere between $18,000 and $20,000 per field is our anticipated cost, because we know that we're going to be having to prepare the ground and put the standards in a fixed position to support the boards. They weigh about 850 pounds each.
That's what I want to know. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mr. Walker, while you're there, does anyone else have any questions? Did you have any follow-ups, Mr. Baker, on that?
No, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Does staff have anything else at this time?
No, that concludes staff report.
Okay. Thank you, sir. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Abdel-Gouad.
I move that we approve Bill 3844, Youth Scoreboards Lease Agreement.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3844. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously 8-0. And then item C is also related. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3852 by title only?
First reading of Bill 3852 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing an agreement with Brandy Electric Company to install electrical service at Recreation Park for scoreboards in the amount of $29,000.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Mustine to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, members of the council. This bill before you is to install electrical service to the scoreboards that we just talked about. We submitted or opened this up for public bids. We received 2 bids, one from Brandy Electric and one from Brenton Electric. Both companies we have long-standing relationships with and have done several types of work, electrical work within our park system. So we're very confident in both companies. The low bid was Brandy Electric at $29,000. If the council will remember, we did have an amount of $13,511.86 earmarked within the community foundation that was donated from the previous baseball organization specifically for scoreboards. So that will be moved over, and then we'll take care of the business of the additional funds in a budget amendment coming up. This particular item is an award of contract to Brandy Electric. And Aaron Asher, one of the owners of the company, is here tonight representing his company. Park Board has seen this and recommends award of contract. And that concludes staff report.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Mustine on this item? All right. Thank you, sir. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Abdel-Gouad.
I move that we approve Bill 3852, the electrical service for the youth scoreboards.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3852. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously 8-0. Can I please have the first reading of Bill 3849 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3849 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, granting a 10-foot wide utility easement to Evergy Metro Incorporated on city-owned property containing approximately .092 acres of land located within Memorial Park, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Gress to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and council, the request before you this evening, as Ms. Hill indicated, as a request to dedicate a 10-foot wide easement to Evergy Electric. In 2023, the Ray-Pec School District completed a number of improvements to Raymore Elementary. Part of that included the installation of a new electrical service that ran through Memorial Park. What you have included in your packet this evening is a copy of that easement agreement as well as the aerial map that shows the general location of where that was installed. That will conclude my staff report this evening.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff? If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Abdel-Gawad.
I move that we approve Bill 3849, the Memorial Park electrical easement.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
The motion is made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3849. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously 8-0. And the last item under new business, could I please have the first reading of Bill 3845 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3845 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, amending the fiscal year 2023 operating budget.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Ms. Williams to make a staff report on this item.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Before you this evening for your consideration is a budget amendment amending the fiscal year 2023 operating budget. During fiscal year 2023, the following operating transactions occurred, causing projections to exceed budget that require budget amendments. Finance staff has accumulated these items to be addressed as a single budget amendment. The first one, the Stormwater Department of the General Fund had additional expenditures associated with emergency storm repairs on South Sunset for $75,000. The Police Department had additional expenditures associated with tasers, in-car cameras, and body camera contract, $42,778 from the General Fund, and $26,282 was spent from the VERP fund that wasn't previously budgeted. General fund available fund balance was transferred to the restricted fund for legal and professional services related to fighting the threatened landfill that will be used for fiscal year 2023 and 2024 expenses in the amount of $355,000. General fund available fund balance was transferred to the capital improvement sales tax fund for improvements to the police firing range in the amount of $400,000. Restricted funds set aside in 2019 for Johnston Drive were transferred to the Transportation Fund for the Johnston Drive Extension Project that commenced in fiscal year 2023. That was $54,750. Restricted funds set aside for the Growth Management Plan were used for professional services related to the city's comprehensive plan for that contract of $55,000. There were emergency repairs to Johnston Parkway paid for from the Capital Improvement Sales Tax Fund, as well as repairs to the permeable paver crosswalks at Sunset and at Huntsman, totaling $73,000. The Communications Department requested to transfer Arts Commission funds to the restricted fund for a future lease payment for public art in the amount of $1,500. The Parks and Recreation Department is making electrical improvements to athletic fields at Recreation Park for scoreboards using funds from the Park Sales Tax Fund as well as from the Raymore Community Foundation, totaling $29,000. The Enterprise Fund is projected to purchase more water from Kansas City, Missouri than budgeted due to increased water sales associated with the very dry summer. This results in an increase in water sales revenue of $500,000 and an increase in water purchased anticipated of $500,000, which is a zero net effect in that fund, but just with that expense increase. That concludes my staff report.
Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. Fearborn.
If I could add on to that particular staff report, did want to point out to the council, a number of these have been presented to you as contracts, et cetera. Normally, if we do not know how a contract is going to end relative to contingencies or additional expenses. Those are the ones we put off until the end of the year, normally the larger ones that you see. However, in this particular budget amendment cycle, there were 2 items that you're either seeing tonight for the first time relative to the scoreboards, item number 1, or emergency repairs are being affected within the next 3 weeks, so they will be in this particular budget cycle, and that is the repairs to the permeable sidewalks at Huntsman and Sunset. That concludes staff report tonight, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Ms. Williams or Mr. Fearborn? Thank you. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Abdelgawad.
I move that we approve Bill 3845, the budget amendment for the fiscal year 2023 operating adjustments.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Townsend. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3845. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. That concludes new business. We'll now move on to public comments. If anyone from the public would like to address the council at this time, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Seeing no one stepping forward, we'll move on to mayor-council communications, and I'll start with Mr. Townsend. Start with you tonight, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Work our
Mayor.
way around.
Yes, I have nothing this evening. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Baker?
The only thing I'd like to add is just this Friday is our 3rd and final concert at the amphitheater, something near and dear to my heart all of a sudden. That I hope everybody can make it. The weather should be the best of the 3 concerts we've had this year, and with the food truck and all that, I think it'd be a great way to end the season with anticipation of what Ms. Harmer and her crew will end up doing next year with the Parks Board and all that. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Inger?
Just one real quick comment. I'm happy to report that our no solicitor stickers work very well. We had a couple gentlemen in Morning View that they had a pretty good scam going on. They came and would knock on people's doors and say, "We're here to help you understand the new Evergy bill that you're about to get. And if you could print that out, we'll help you make your decision on that." Well, they were really there to sell them solar panels for the roof.
Gotcha.
And they were going to use that information they had from the energy bill to put forward to do on their solar bills. The gentleman that I talked to, when I found these, pardon my French, 2 knuckleheads on the front door, when he saw me pull up and jump out of the car, recognizing who I was, I got the big thumbs up from him, and then he told me, "I'm going up to the activity center tonight now. I'm going to get one of those stickers and put it on my door. All my neighbors have it. I thought it was silly until now." So the stickers do work.
Well, good. Mr. Abdelgawad?
Nothing tonight, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barber?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to thank our city manager and his staff for all the hard work they did for our fiscal budget for 2024. And I know there's a lot of work that goes into that, and really appreciate that. And then we're just one city council meeting from approving that, and he'll be working on the 2025 budget.
Correct.
So it really doesn't get a break from the budget, but I do appreciate it. It's a lot of hard work. Take it very seriously. You've told me before it's the single most important document that the city has, because that's the Bible that we use to run our city. So it's a very important document. So thank you, and pass that on to staff.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Holman?
I don't, excuse me, I don't have anything additional this evening, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Burke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Want to thank staff for putting together a good budget again, like, I don't know, 20 years or so, that I've paid attention to. The other thing I wanted to talk about, it was kind of a hard decision for me on the bridges. One of the bridges I feel like doesn't bridge over anything and maybe could be replaced with like a U at the end in the north, that north part. The other two are actually harder to traverse for kids, but typically my children always loved running under the bridges or next to the bridges, or But I would like for us to look at that park in an overall way this year and really see. I know we've addressed with that that trail is about twice as long as it used to be, going around the entire perimeter, and we've done a lot of things with the concessions and things like that. But I think we should take a look at it and see what maybe needs are there, and then put together a comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Forster?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to say I agree with Joseph, and hopefully he will reconsider his vote. And if we have funds, it's easier to fix things than to plan for future and then get pushed off and pushed off. And I do understand that we have a park board, but I'm with Sonia in the sense that they are sent with a task so big that it's hard, and that's why we were trying to, as according to Councilmember Holman, that piecemeal. We are trying to do a little bit just so that way we are showing our constituents not only that we are willing to fight to protect their home values for the landfill, but also keep them safe whenever they're out on the trails or as they're walking to the amphitheater, having a beautiful trail, to not worry about tripping, falling, or running next to a bridge that might fall over. So I would like to challenge all of my fellow councilmen to go look at those trails and walk on them. Maybe take your grandkid or your dog or a stroller. See if you can get it on there, because I couldn't. So I am disappointed, but I do appreciate the staff's work in getting us all the information, and the budget is a lot of work, and so I do appreciate what you have done. I don't mean to belittle that, just trying to make sure we're covering all our bases. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And the one thing I have this evening is a little more global in nature. I want to express our sorrow in the attack on Israel this weekend, and let the people of Israel know, and the Jewish communities, that our hearts and prayers are with you in this struggle and dealing with a tragedy that struck us similarly just 22 years ago. And that's all I have tonight. Is there any reason to move into executive session, sir?
No, sir.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Belgood.
I move that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second.
The motion's been made and seconded for adjournment. All those in favor?